Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel, and we are officially in the last week of 2021, and most likely this is going to be the last video that I will be making and posting for this year. So I thought it would be natural to kind of revisit the topic of Nintendo in 2022. I did recently discuss it to a degree as far as their larger game lineup that could release throughout the entire year of 2022. But today, I instead want to focus more specifically on when we might see the first Direct of the year and why I think it could be pretty freaking awesome. Now, obviously, as I've discussed on quite a few videos throughout the month of December, I think that many of us hoped to see more from Nintendo in the month of December, most specifically because of the Game Awards and the fact that they had a game, my favorite game, nominated for Game of the Year, and so many of us were expecting or hoping to see them announce some new things. We all wanted new updates on anything Metroid related, DLC for Dread, or something about Metroid Prime 4 or a trilogy. Most of us also expecting potentially some Zelda news and some Zelda updates, or even just a random trailer for a new game we didn't know about. And, you know, Nintendo basically wasn't even at the Game Awards. They gave us no other Direct, they gave us no other big hype moment or reveal in the last probably 2 months or so of the year. And because of that, I think that a lot of folks have now, as we would expect, started to turn their eyes onto 2022. I myself have done the same thing. Even though I think that 2021 was a great year for gaming and a great year for Nintendo, I mean, again, we're in the last week of the year. The only thing we can do is look forward to 2022. And while I think all companies and all platforms are going to have a great year, I myself, of course, also an owner of a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox Series X, so I game across all platforms. Obviously, I care about and focus on Nintendo here, and it is Nintendo that I think is set up to potentially have the best year of anyone. Of course, before we dive any deeper into the Nintendo Direct 2022 topic, I do like to remind you guys that I am always trying to grow the channel here on Rule of Two Review, even though I have been very open about the fact that I'm taking a break from YouTube and social media a little bit in January, starting next month in 2022. Not quite sure how long it's going to go for, but break aside, I do still care about this channel. I am always trying to grow it. I'm right at the cusp of 18,000 subscribers, which is 1,000 subscribers more than my 2021 goal, which I'm very proud of. I upload every single week. I talk about all things Nintendo, all things Metroid, and all things gaming. So as you watch this video, if you seem to like what I'm doing and what you hear, then I hope you will consider subscribing to the channel. So naturally, for us Nintendo fans going into 2022, the big question we have is, when will we see the first Nintendo Direct of the year? Will it happen in quarter one? Will it happen in month one? Will it happen in week one? All of these different things. Or is Nintendo going to make us wait a while and maybe wait until we're closer to E3, or maybe wait for E3 to be the first time they address us with any sort of updates or new announcements? These are the questions we have, and I will tell you right here near the beginning that I firmly believe we're getting a first Nintendo Direct very early in the year. I mean, I am definitely putting my money on January. Now, there's two main reasons why I think we're getting a significant Direct early in the year and why I think it will happen in January, the first month of the year. And the first is the fact that, honestly, they chose not to show up at the Game Awards or do anything significant in December. There was a lot of attention focused on Metroid, basically from the launch of that game in October all the way through the Game Awards in December, because of the nomination for both Best Action Adventure Game and for Game of the Year. And the fact that it won Best Action Adventure Game, which is fantastic, even though I personally am not a fan of the Game Awards as of this year. I still think it's great that it won that award. It deserved both nominations. In my opinion, it deserved both wins. But I'm still thrilled that it won Best Action Adventure Game. And so there was a lot of attention focused on Metroid. And again, with a lot of us expecting a new game reveal or at least an update on Zelda, the fact that they chose not to show anything made me wonder and theorize, and I discussed this on some videos too, wonder and theorize that they didn't show anything at the Game Awards because they know they're getting ready to just unleash on us as soon as 2022 hits. Which then, of course, segues me to the second reason why I think we're going to get a big Direct in the month of January, and it's because as of right now, based on everything Nintendo has told us, we're expecting a ton of killer, kick-ass, huge, significant titles for the Switch. Before we know any other secrets or surprises, We already have games like Splatoon 3, Breath of the Wild 2, hello, Bayonetta 3, the new Kirby game. Pokemon itself is also launching in January. There's probably a couple of other ones I might even just be forgetting, just spinning stuff off the top of my head. And so with so many games on the horizon that we're told are 2022 games, and the fact that Nintendo completely ignored the Game Awards, I feel like they're literally just waiting to open the floodgates on the year of 2022, literally in January. And so if we get a direct in the month of January, and if it's a significant direct, we're not talking about, a Pokemon specific direct. We're not talking about a Nintendo Direct Mini or like a project presentation, whatever they called those things. If we're just talking about a main, huge, 40-minute, massive, real direct in the month of January, we ask ourselves, what could show up? What would they do early on in the month of January? And I do have a couple of ideas. I think that probably one of the biggest highlight titles, my guess, and I'm only guessing, would probably be Splatoon 3. Splatoon 3, I think, is one of the high-profile Nintendo games coming out next year that I expect to launch in the first half of the year. I think there's a great chance it, follows in suit with the original game on the Wii U that released, I want to say maybe in May. It was definitely like that spring, early summertime that game came out. And I think that Splatoon 3 would be perfect for that time as well. And so if that's true, and let's pretend that game is launching between like March and June, basically in quarter two, I feel like they would want to spend a significant amount of time detailing and updating us on it in the first direct in January, at least giving us a release date, and then also probably giving us a Splatoon-focused direct in the weeks before the game would launch. Again, if my guess is correct that the game launches around spring or summer this year. I think a game that I doubt we would see much on at all would be Bayonetta 3. Maybe they briefly touch on it or mention it, but I don't expect anything significant, and I think there's even a great chance we don't hear from the game at all. My guess for Bayonetta 3 would be the first update for that game would be at E3, and then the game itself, if it sticks to 2022, would probably end up releasing in that September to November time, later at the end of the year, closer to the holidays. Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, of course, is the big question mark we all have going into the year. And I think there's a 50-50 chance that Nintendo barely touches on the game in the first direct of the year. I don't think, basically this is my kind of prediction here, is that if they give us a direct in January, I think that they won't ignore Breath of the Wild 2. I think in their first presentation to the gaming community and the Nintendo community of the year, they need to acknowledge their biggest and most hyped game that they have told us will release in 2022. So I think they will touch on it, they will remind us of the game, they will remind us that it is currently planned for 2022, and they will, as Nintendo likes to do, just quote-unquote promise us more information about the game later in the year. I hope that game sticks to 2022, probably the big November release. Almost for sure, just like with Bayonetta 3, I would think we would get a huge blowout of that game at E3. And so I think that in the first direct, they won't really give us anything significant, probably not even any new footage, but I do think they will address it, reconfirm it for 2022, and promise us a huge look at it later in the year. Obviously, we can always expect a smattering of smaller tier games. We'll probably get a little sizzle reel of games that are first party, third party, indie titles, things that are kind of showing, oh, this third-party game is finally making its way over, or this last gen, or this Xbox 360 port, or whatever. They love to have those sizzle reels that throws in stuff like that, and so we'll probably get some talks about that, maybe like a cloud version of Resident Evil 8 is coming. And, I don't know, Red Dead Redemption from the first Red Dead Redemption is coming, things like that, along with indie games. They love to do that stuff. Obviously, I think we would get those things as well. Of course, new games and new announcement and surprises are always the big things we hope for. I would think this first direct is going to have one significant new hype game drop, okay? And to me, that could be one of a couple of things. I think about Pikmin 4, which I've been waiting for like 2 years. I've been predicting that game. I do think that game is real. I do think it's coming to the Switch, and Nintendo has been sitting on it for a long time. And so I will continue to predict and expect Pikmin 4 at every single direct until that game is announced. So yes, I think Pikmin 4 is on the table to be shown at this first direct of the year. I think that maybe announcing a new Fire Emblem game could be on the table for sure. And also, what about a new Mario Kart? Many of us think Mario Kart 9 is being tooled away on as well, and maybe that could show up. So those are probably the 3 games that jump, top of mind to me to be big, significant new game surprises for the first Direct of the year. A Pikmin 4, a new Fire Emblem game, or maybe even Mario Kart 9. And now let's jump to the big thing, which is Metroid. Of course, I'm going to talk about Metroid here. And is there a chance that we hear from the Metroid series in any way, shape, or form in the first Direct of the year? And I think, yes, there is a chance. I won't say that I feel it's a lock, but I think that there is a great chance. Both in terms of, do we see Metroid Dread has DLC coming? A lot of us think that there's a great chance Nintendo is working on DLC for Metroid Dread. I do think there is a good chance there is. I haven't heard any rumors. There's no leaks. This is just fan theories, and I have my own theory. And yeah, I think there's a great chance that they might be doing it. And so maybe they want to tell us, hey, Metroid Dread was this huge success. Everyone loves it. We were glad to revive this franchise. And we're also making this DLC, and it's coming out later this year. So maybe we get that announcement. That would be super amazing. Of course, the big question is Metroid Prime 4. Now, I won't say too much on this because my first video for the year, which will probably be my last video before I go on break, will be about Metroid Prime 4 and the status of that game going into 2022. So the only thing I'll say in this video is, yeah, maybe they briefly mention Metroid Prime 4 and set us up for new news later in the year. If that happens, I will cry tears of joy. Tough to say. Metroid Prime Trilogy HD or the rumored Metroid Prime 1 remake. Do they touch on those in this Direct? Sure, I think there's a chance. I think my overall prediction is, for the most part, Metroid more than likely won't appear in the first Direct of the year. It's possible, but I'm not putting my money on it. I think we'll get more Metroid updates after the first Direct of the year. And so for the most part, those are my predictions. I mean, you could say that some of them are pretty safe. I think that the most important takeaways just for my predictions is that, one, I am predicting a January Nintendo Direct, and I'm predicting a main significant huge Direct. I'm predicting Splatoon 3 will probably be one of the biggest focuses. I'm predicting slight potential mentions of Zelda and or Bayonetta 3. I'm predicting slight potential mentions of anything about Metroid. Also, we're going to get the typical sizzle reel of indie games and third-party games. I also think we will get some kind of big, huge new game announcement. And that, to me, is something like a Pikmin 4, a Mario Kart 9, a Fire Emblem, or something else kind of in that vein, something that falls in that category. That would be a new game that we don't know about currently, even if it's rumored. I mean, Lord, what if we got a Star Fox game? That's what would bring tears to my eyes, is if we got a Star Fox game. So those are kind of my big takeaways and predictions. I think it could be potentially a great Direct. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the first Direct of the year won't happen until February or March. That could happen as well. I'm only guessing that it's January, but that is my guess. I feel pretty good about it. I think Nintendo staying silent in the month of December and passing the Game Awards by completely tells me that they are sitting on their own huge information. There are so many big, high-profile games coming in 2022. We expect it to be a massive year. I even think there's a slight chance that we see new hardware announced before the end of 2022. I don't think we'll play new hardware in 2022, but could we see Nintendo confirm new hardware in 2022? I happen to think so. I think you guys know that. And so anything is at play here, but I really expect them to open the floodgates in January, which is only a week away at this point. Very exciting times. I hope Nintendo has big things planned for us. Gimme Zelda, gimme Metroid, gimme Bayonetta, gimme Pikmin, gimme all that good stuff. Gimme Star Fox. Very exciting times. So these are my thoughts about the first Nintendo Direct going into the year. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm right when I say January is the time? Do you think it's coming sometime later? Do you think all my predictions are great? Do you think I'm way off base across the board? However you feel, talk about it below. And with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. I hope you have a fantastic new year. And with that, I will see you on the other side next year in 2022 on another video.